KidsCan is turning 20 years old, so today they've launched their winter appeal. Stats found by the charity show New Zealand has the second highest rate of child food insecurity in the OECD, with more than 14% of students saying a lack of money had caused them to skip a meal at least once a week. Dame Julie Chapman is the KidsCan founder and is with me this morning. Good morning.
Morning, Ryan.
Good to have you here. Well, first of all, congratulations, I suppose, on 20 years.
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird feeling because being around for 20 years and supporting more children than ever isn't something to celebrate. But I think what we do feel good about is that we've been providing those essentials like shoes, food, clothing, so that children who are struggling to access their education can get to the school gates and in a position to learn. And I think that's really important. You know, it'd be over 1 million raincoats, over 500,000 pairs of shoes, and too many food items to count. So for us, it's never been about solving child poverty, because we know we can't do that, but we're all about making sure kids have the basics so that they can just go to school like any other child and learn.
It's gotten way worse than the last year when we just heard some of those numbers.
Yeah.
Food insecurity in particular, kids basically going hungry. This is somewhat surprising. I mean, we have the government has come on board, the Labor one and then the national one's kept it going with the Food in Schools program. So despite all of that, we still have more kids who are hungry than the year before.
Yeah, absolutely. So at KidsCan, we've seen a 15% spike in school food orders versus the same time last year. And I think what all of this tells us, because you're right, we do have the government program, we have other organisations that do food, it just tells you how big the problem of food insecurity really is. And we thought when some of these programs came in, there'd be less need for our support, but unfortunately it's grown. And of course there are some schools that we support that don't get that government program as well. So the need is huge, and I don't think one organisation can do it all.
In the last 20 years, because you've been around for the block a few times now, generally, are we better or worse off? Like, were you better off being a kid in New Zealand 20 years ago or now?
Gosh, I think probably, in my own personal opinion, 20 years ago, we were seeing less child poverty. We certainly, when we started, we knew there was about 15,000 children across a range of schools that needed support. And now we're talking tens of thousands of children. So I just think as I guess the gap between people who can afford those essentials and those who can't has grown. We certainly at KidsCan have seen the need increase and not letting up. And we're talking really, really entrenched poverty, which is why we've launched our winter appeal, and we're trying to raise funds to get that food, clothing, shoes, etc. to 3,500 kids this winter that really need it.
So it's not that our expectations or level of expectation have increased, because this is one of the things you hear about the Food in Schools program, right? Is, you see photos images on the news of kids chucking, and teachers standing there while kids are chucking out food, and people are thinking, well, are you actually hungry?
Yeah, I think you're always going to see the stories that give the sensationalist side of things. What we know, particularly with our program, is it's very targeted. So we have limited charity dollars, so we've got to make them stretch as far as we can. But we know in the food side in particular, it's all times of the day that kids are hungry, especially when they're going home to nothing in the cupboards. So I think it is a serious issue, but for us also, it's not just about the food, it's about those other things, a decent pair of shoes so they can participate, a jacket to keep them warm. And, schools tell us kids stay home without those things, so we're about providing them so they can get to school.
Julie, where do people go if they want to help out with the donations for the winter appeal?
Go to kidscan.org.nz, $30 a month, provide those things for kids in need.
Appreciate you coming in this morning and for all your
Thanks,
work
Ryan.
over the last 20 years. Dame Julie Chapman, KidsCan founder.